you interested in gender and disaster?
Well, look, one of the most important things about the emergency services sector, it's been dominated by males, and we need to get diversity, not only in a gender sense, but also an age profile sense. So we've got to actually take time to understand what we want to be. And I think that's really important to get the blend, the mix, the diversity, but the involvement of people. And we've got to make sure the door's open for everyone to come through, and in particular, females.
So as Emergency Management Commissioner, what can you do to improve men's experiences during disasters and their aftermath?
Yeah, look, the experience of men is really interesting in the during and also the aftermath. One, we've got to actually understand men a little better about what they want to do, and there's a profile that we could probably describe. We might be too generic about they want to be doers. They're actually doers in the during, and they also don't necessarily slow down in the aftermath, the immediate aftermath. So we've got to build that into the way in which we plan for, get people to understand that that's the way in which they'll operate the during and the after, and let people start to be more aware of themselves and the team to be aware of it, and it's okay to talk about it. That it's something to share with others, with peers, talk about it, understand it, but don't let it bottle up as an individual. We've got to actually be, as males, able to do that. My role in that is about leadership. My role is about making sure that we do understand the experience, understand what we know people will go through, and build it into the way in which we operate.
So what about, you're talking about men generally?
Yeah, I think we've got a very generic process about males, and it's reasonably well researched to say that that the male will become the doer. And we see that in a community sense, and we also see it in the emergency services.
So how is it different, or how about the men in the emergency services organisations? Is there a different process therefore we need to take leadership in?
I think because we've got a captured audience in the emergency services, we've obviously got the ability to use the structures of the agencies to do so. And we've got to be better at doing that. We've got to actually make sure that we talk about it before the event, that it's not this thing that we're talking about after the event that's new to people. It's got to be about what they're going to experience, what behaviours they'll display, what attitude they've got towards it, the approach, the agility. I'm very strong on those, that if we have the right attitude, approach and agility, and the understanding of what people will do during these periods, we'll be better at it. And we've got to focus at that male to understand that, because they do definitely step into the doing. And when they do the doing, they also display in the after the frustrations of that. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it, they bottle it up. And we've got to open that up to make sure people talk better and understand their feelings.
How do you do that within the structures of the organisations? How do you...
Well, I think the key thing about the structures, they're still in many instances quite paramilitary. And in that sense, we've got to actually break those open a little bit and understand. We don't have to take away the command and control roles of what happens, but we've got to actually make it a more open environment that people can talk willingly, talk knowing that it's going to be respected, even when someone needs that, that open hand, the listening time. Even listening alone is an important part of it, to listen to someone and be able to work them through what they need. We all haven't got those skills, so it's not about a one-on-one process necessarily. It's about trusting the team approach and having respect for each other, that sometimes others do well, others need a hand, and the time they need a hand is a time for us to listen and understand that.
Are there other things that can be done within those structures, or changing the structures in emergency services organisations?
We've got to understand our structures, and sometimes the structures are quite structured. That is, they are very structured and they are restrictive. So I think it's about a modernisation of how we see that. I think brigades in CFA, in MFB, SES units, the traditional emergency services, are still quite structured, and we need to do more of that over the next number of years to say, let's free it open a bit and understand each other better. That's not challenging the fact that we've got command and control. Let's respect that and understand it's got a place, but we've also got to open up the management structures to be more able to deal with the issues that I think we've all faced before and will certainly face in the future.
So what can you do to improve women's experiences of disasters and their aftermath?
Well, one, we've got to actually champion it. One, we've got to make sure that the door is open for females, women to be part of these services. And there's examples where that's worked and worked extremely well. So I can take you to a fire brigade in the outer metropolitan area that has got a brigade management team that is greater than 50% dominated by females. Great experience. So that tells me that they've already opened the door up and have been able to see a diversity in gender come into the brigade. But there's other brigades across the state that are still male dominated. And if a female was to knock on the door, I'm not sure it'd be a welcoming open in the sense of the behaviour, the culture. So it goes back to that first experience. And I think the first experience is always the lasting experience. That is, if I walk in and it's dominated by a certain culture, I'll look and say, is it for me? And we've got to open the door and understand the way in which we are representing ourselves and presenting ourselves. My role is to actually make sure the agencies understand that. I can't change that overnight. It's got to be changed at the grassroots. So I think those at the community level, those at the emergency services level that are servicing their community need to understand that and understand it better. That's not a criticism, it's actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity of the future that people need to say, we need to be better at what we're doing. The data's there to say we're male dominated in most instances. Let's take that opportunity to be better, more diverse, open, about letting those others in that may not have been there before. It's a really important step. And it's not just about gender, it's about a diversity in community. You know, that we're still probably very dominant in certain profiles within some communities. Let's open those doors to have that diversity issue open to what we need. It's important for our future. It's really important for our future.
So this is the way, changes in the way you recruit?
I think it goes right to the way in which we recruit, the way in which we operate, the way in which we reward what we do. It's everything we do. It's not tokenism. It can't be tokenism. It's got to be reality. It's got to be something that's sustainable, and it's got to be an honest attempt to put structures in place that is inviting to all to participate.
So what's the benefit for managers of emergency services organisations considering gender? What's in it for them?
Look, diversity in gender means we've got a better representation of the community. There's no doubt that we'll see a different discussion, we'll see a different profile, a different capability. It's really important for the future in the way in which we see everything. It's got generational change, it brings the opportunity for Generation X and Y to participate. They are different, but they want to be involved, they're community focused. They want to be involved, they want to be respected, and they want to contribute. So it's diversity, it's gender, it's generational change. It's got to take all those issues in. But certainly the fact that we've got a male-dominated presence means that we've got to be focused on gender as well, which is one of those key things about opening the doors to make sure we have a greater profile. And I think it represents the community. You know, it really does start to represent what the community profile is about what our agencies look like and how they operate.
It's very different, isn't it, than what it's been in the past?
It is different, but I think lots of things have changed, and in that sense, we've got to take the changes with us. The opportunity for what it brings to us in capability and capacity to have a diverse workforce, a diverse sector, is really important.
So what do you regard as the biggest challenge in promoting gender equity in emergency services?
Look, when we say promote gender equity, one, we've got to focus on it, but we need to make sure it's built to be sustainable. That it's not something the next 12 months is about gender. It's got to be ongoing. It's got to be what we do in 5 months, in 5 years, in 15 years. It can't be just a program to say, 2014 is the program. It's not about that. It's got to be long term. It's got to be valuing people's contribution. That is the true contribution of what they give. So it's actually showing true respect, valuing people's contribution capabilities. And we're all different. We've all got something different to give. And I think that's the important thing, that we value what that contribution is and we get the best out of it, but it's got to be the personal experience that's a good experience. It's no good that I contribute and I don't feel as if I'm respected, I'm understood and I'm valued. It's important that I am respected, understood and valued, and I'll contribute to the broader team in a valued way, which is really important.
So is this about policy development and policy changes across organisations?
It has to be about policy. We have to make sure that policy guides it, but it's also got to make sure that we've got practicality on the ground, that it's involving, it's engaging. So it's got to be every level. It's got to be, we've got to make sure we've got policy and practice, we've got training, we're using exercising to encourage people, we're using true utilisation of people's capabilities. So we utilise the people for what they are, and in particular focus on getting more females involved in what is a great sector and represent what the community expects us to do.
And what are some of those practical things about bringing more women into emergency services? What sort of practical things need to change?
Look, there was a simple thing of the type of gear that was being issued. You know, look, if we're going to ask people to do something, let's make sure they're equipped properly. You know, and here we had at one stage where, and it is a policy issue, that the gear, the clothing we're wearing, the gloves, the simple to gloves, were structured around, you know, the backdrop that it was for a male. Like, yeah, that's not inclusion. That's actually very divisive in its own right. We need to respect and understand people and equip them appropriately. That's a really practical, but it's not the person at the grassroots can change that. That means leaders need to change things. Leaders need to change things to enable the grassroots to work effectively. That's our role. That's a leadership role in our area, and then we've got to apply it. That's only one example. There's many examples of where we've put restrictive things in place that it's either gender or even physically how I operate. You know, someone that's shorter, taller, someone that's got capabilities that have or haven't. So we've got to actually understand this diversity thing in the broader sense, but certainly diversification in gender is one of those.
Right, thank you. One last question. Do you have, Craig, do you have an example of when a lack of attention to gender had negative consequences, or when attention on gender had positive outcomes?
There's certainly a number of examples of negative examples where individuals haven't been treated appropriately, haven't been respected, haven't been understood, and therefore the experience for the individual has been very, very catastrophic to the individual themselves, and we need to think about that. So put yourself in the lens of the person that is expressing themselves and the concerns they've got. Dismissing small issues that don't get dealt with become big issues. So deal with the issues as they are and deal with them in a mature way to say this person, this individual has something to contribute and isn't getting a fair go, isn't being heard, and isn't therefore being respected. So that's really important, and there's many examples of those that have knocked on the door, wanted to contribute, have actually started and had a bad experience and not been dealt with properly. Now that could be policy, it could be just simply people having the ability to understand people's issues and the diversity involved in those. But there's other examples where we've seen huge success. You know, I've watched a young female captain of a fire brigade that had traditionally been males. Exceptional experience, and she has excelled and been supported by everyone around her. So there's examples there to say how good is that, and that person has not only been acknowledged by her own brigade but her own community of what a great leader she is. So there's a great example, but there's also examples that are not so good, and we need to make sure those little experiences that aren't always the best experiences are dealt with appropriately, managed, and not repeated.
One last question is, it's been mentioned today about women entering the fire brigades that have to almost be as blokey as the men. What do you say to that? How's that going to change?
Well, if we've got this blokey thing and we expect all that come to the door to act and behave in a blokey environment, that's not the right environment. That's not where we want to be at all. And I think we need to take stock of those things. If they are still alive in 2014, that's not the place we want to be at all. We've got to make sure that it represents what we see as community standards of respect and understanding of people, and we've got to apply them into our environment. If we see and know that there are clubs operating, and I say clubs in the sense that behaviour of clubs, that's not a good place to be. We need to be better than that in this day and age, and we certainly need to be better into the future of dealing with that. The blokey environment, where they are, people need to actually think seriously about those and make sure that it's acceptance to all. It's not about one one part that's been the traditional part, and we need to understand that and work that through. And there's also a little bit about sometimes I'm not sure the blokey environment is acknowledged by the blokes. That's their norm. So we've actually got to take time to say, hey, that's a blokey environment. So how do we change that? And how do we help those that are in the blokey environment change? So sometimes, and they may wish to change, but they don't know how to change. So we've got to take time to actually work that through and help that. I don't think it's about putting the bad example up and saying that's the bad example. Let's build on the strengths, but acknowledge there are bad examples. And where there's bad, we've got to get to the good. And I think in this day and age, society has changed, society norms have changed. People know what's right and wrong in this space. They know what's politically right, politically wrong. They know what respect is about. We've got to apply it, and we've all got to apply it. So it's not me, it's not you, it's all of us need to apply these rules.